Atlanta News First Plus starts now.
Good morning, I'm Rick Volbaum. Thanks so much for joining us here on ANF Plus. We're going to get you caught up on some of the headlines. We also have a weather forecast coming up with Courtney Jacobazzi, so stick around for that. I want to first start with something that's in the news today, and this has to do with security at schools. And we are now about 9 months or so since the terrible school shooting at Appalachia High School in Barrow County in Winder, where 4 people were killed, 2 teachers and 2 students. And it was the school resource officers, the SROs, who were really credited with preventing that tragedy from becoming even more tragic, from more people getting hurt. And so that is why this story is in the news today, because it has to do with those SROs and I try to figure out this. Let's see if I can. Oh, there we go. So this has to do with funding for these school resource officers in Barrow County, and that funding is in jeopardy. The county says it wants to change the way that SROs are paid and paid for, and parents just say that they're baffled with all of this going on right now. Barrow County is looking to provide less money for the SROs. Right now, the county and the school district currently split the salaries of 16 officers. However, the county wants to go back to a 2017 agreement where the county pays for only half of the salaries of 12 officers, not 16. So starting July 1st, the school system would need to pay for half of the 12 officers plus the full salaries for the 12 more officers they want to secure, costing the district of roughly $1 million a year. And parents tell us that the switch up in funding is insulting. In a statement, the county says that voters approved that county general fund dollars should not be used in areas that are funded by school taxes. The school board, we should tell you, though, has a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. So we'll keep an eye on that. You can look for more reports on the outcome of that meeting later tonight on Atlanta News First. Okay, let's talk about financial relief for taxpayers in Georgia. It is almost here. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and the Georgia Department of Revenue announcing that the state will begin issuing one-time special tax refunds this week. We've been talking about it. The checks are coming. The governor signed legislation for more than $1 billion in tax cuts back in April. So if you're eligible, you'll get a check between $250 to $500, depending on whether you filed a tax return in 2023 and 2024 and whether you filed as married or single. So look for those checks. And young people might be looking for checks because economists say that this is the worst job market in years for young people. The overall national jobless rate stands at 4.2%, but Oxford Economics says that the unemployment rate for people aged 22 to 27 years old with at least a bachelor's degree is consistently higher than the national rate. The research firm found that unemployment for recent grads was heavily concentrated in technical fields like finance and computer science, where AI has made faster gains in those different industries. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows the unemployment rate for those ages 20 to 24 is 8.2%, nearly twice as high as the national average. All right, ladies, look up, listen up. Middle-aged women with a regular coffee habit could be setting themselves up to live longer and healthier. A study looked at women in their 50s who drank 1 to 3 cups of caffeinated coffee a day, and they found they were more likely to reach older age free from many chronic diseases and with good cognitive, physical, and mental health as well. So keep that in mind. Now, finally, we have one more story because we could all use a little bit of a boost, right? One storage rental business in Mississippi is all about lifting spirits, one sign at a time. Local News Live's Hugh Keaton shows us their inspirational idea.
I like seeing that people respond by saying it gave me a lift that day.
The lift Jim Horn is talking about is simple. It comes from driving by and reading inspirational messages.
I like the one on the other side.
Horn is a co-owner of Handy Lock Self-Storage. More than 2 decades ago, one of his managers at the Ocean Springs location had the idea to put a quote on a sign.
I think it said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And it just struck us that that's a great message. It's not only encouraging, it's wisdom. So it started from there.
Now it's a tradition. The messages are regularly changed at all 9 of the self-storage locations from Gulfport to Pensacola.
If you can give them that encouraging pat on the back or a little hug as they're driving by, you know, that's a good feeling.
All the employees pitch in to come up with ideas for new quotes.
It's a culture of helpfulness.
The signs can also serve as a welcome to the neighborhood, like for a person moving to the area who sent Horn this message.
It said, "I knew I was home when I drove into town and I saw this sign on the handy lot."
The work to make sure the quotes don't repeat is an ongoing process and discussion.
Success is a collection of problem solved. That one. Yeah.
So if you're having trouble making it through the week, a drive by one of these signs just might give you the boost you need to make it to Friday.
Everybody's carrying a burden. Everybody. And if it helps only for that 15 seconds to give them a deep breath on their way to work or on their way home to say, yeah, I got this. That's wonderful.
That's a nice story, isn't it, for your Tuesday? All right, everyone, let's talk about your first alert forecast because we do have some changes on the horizon. We just ended a really, really rainy and stormy May, especially the back half of the month. And we are getting a little bit of a break from that. And I say a little bit because we do have some rain in the forecast this week. But this weekend, we'll have an approaching cold front move into the southeast. And we'll have little waves of energy right along that. And that will bring the return of showers and storms. In fact, Saturday and Sunday, because of that higher rain and storm chance, are first alert weather days. Right now, it doesn't look like either day is a washout. But we do know that we'll have at least a chance for scattered showers and storms that could impact your weekend plans. So what we're telling you right now is just to start thinking about a backup indoor plan if you have any outdoor plans this weekend, and then we'll continue to fine-tune the forecast as we get closer to Saturday and Sunday. Right now, a little hazy out there. We do still have some of that smoke coming in from the wildfires from Canada. There's also some Saharan dust that's starting to take over Florida, and that could kind of usher its way in as well, which is keeping the tropics fairly quiet. But we'll talk about the tropics in just a second here. But 78 degrees in the city of Atlanta just after 10 o'clock. So if we're already almost at 80 at 10 o'clock, you know it's going to be a warm day. That's going to be the story. Temperatures generally in the low to mid 70s at this hour. We'll head into the upper 80s today, at least for the city of Atlanta, the suburbs in the mid 80s. The humidity will be elevated, but not super high, so it won't be oppressively humid out there, but it'll still feel a touch hotter. Make sure you're drinking lots of water and staying in the shade, especially if you have to spend extended periods of time outside. If you're one of our very hardworking outdoor workers, I know these months can be pretty brutal for you. We'll be in the low 80s at noon, and then around 3 o'clock in the mid 80s. And if you have any evening plans tonight, you're headed home from work, maybe you have some dinner plans, maybe you're headed to the Braves game tonight, temperatures will hold in the mid 80s even around 6 o'clock this evening. Tomorrow, we up that rain chance to about 40%. We're going to be watching this low that the National Hurricane Center is also watching, giving it a 10% chance of development along the Atlantic coast of the Carolinas over the next several days. Very limited chance for development. Again, we have some of that haze. We also have that approaching cold front. So all those things put together, it's also going to interact with land a good bit. So we don't think this is going to have the opportunity to really get its act together and get organized. But we're still keeping an eye on it because it will have at least some tropical characteristics. And it will also bring us some rain going into Wednesday. But a very low-end chance of development on this low that is essentially going to develop along a stalled front that's currently sitting across the state of Florida. And that is something we look for this time of year a lot. As we're rounding out spring and going into summer, we get those cold fronts to move through as we kind of transition into our new season. And a lot of times they'll stall out over the state of Florida, and that will allow these lows to kind of develop along them, and sometimes they can become tropical in nature. So that's something we watch, especially out in the Gulf this time of year. If we can get those lows to develop along the fronts in the Gulf, that usually can translate into some tropical activity. But regardless, going into tomorrow morning, this low will be developing kind of near Jacksonville, Florida. Showers moving inland along the coast. We'll have the chance for a few showers tomorrow afternoon. So for kids' outdoor summer camp activities, if you're just simply running errands tomorrow afternoon, a few isolated showers with some heavy downpours will be possible. And then it looks like the best chance for rain will be as that low starts to pass by. Big question right now is how far west does that low go? The further west, further inland it goes, the higher that coverage of rain is for us. It's just going to kind of scoop in all that rain off the Atlantic. Further east it goes, the drier we're going to be. So until that low really develops, it's going to be difficult for models to determine where it starts and where it's going to end. So once it starts to develop a little more, our models will pick up on where it's developing and ultimately where it's going to go. But in the meantime, we're thinking especially along and south of that I-85 corridor, scattered showers will be possible tomorrow. This could impact your evening commute, especially east of the city from Athens down to Eatonton. Some heavy downpours will be possible. And then this latest model run is bringing in rain a little bit more tomorrow evening around 7 o'clock. So if you had any evening plans tomorrow, again, the Braves are in town playing the Diamondbacks. That could impact the game tomorrow evening very briefly. This isn't going to linger all night long. There'll be quick passing showers kind of in bands that we'll be watching tomorrow. Stay tuned for updates on that because I do think we'll see the models either trend wetter through the rest of the day or drier as that low again starts to really develop. Thursday, a few lingering showers possible, but the bigger story is the heat. We'll be closer to 90 degrees on Friday ahead of those first alert weather days, Saturday and Sunday. Take this with a grain of salt, but we're going to be watching a front that's going to move closer, as I mentioned, and then some kind of pulses of energy that'll ride along that front, very similar to what our forecast pattern was last week. Not really expecting widespread severe weather with this, but we could have some gusty wind and heavy rain. Going into Saturday morning, showers will be possible. It won't be an all-day rain event. I do think we'll get some dry time. Models lately have been kind of trending on the back half of the day Saturday, but this is just a sneak peek at what one of our models is saying about the rain on Saturday, with maybe a secondary batch coming in on the back half of the day after 4 o'clock into the late evening hours. So stay tuned to the forecast. Again, we're giving you those first alert weather days to give you a heads up that we are looking like we'll enter into a pattern that will be increasingly stormy, but the exact timing still definitely needs work. And then we'll hold on to a scattered chance for storms and showers on Monday as well. Right now at a 20% coverage, but we'll fine tune that through the week as well with temperatures in the mid 80s. No really, really high heat, not many 90s right now in the foreseeable future, which is good if you're not ready for that big time summer heat, but we will enter into a more unsettled pattern over the weekend. And unfortunately, looking long range, it does look like we will enter back into an unsettled pattern going into the middle of June. So this brief break does look like it is going to be quite brief for us. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and stay tuned in the First Alert Weather app for all the updates on your forecast, and we'll catch you here next time.
Stay up to date on your latest weather from the largest team of meteorologists in the Southeast. Download the First Alert Weather app for hour-by-hour forecasts and join us every weekday at 11:30 a.m. on ANF+. You can also text weather to the number on your screen, and we'll send a link directly to your cell phone.